Right. Historical role of vocabulary selection. We are looking this topic under the heading of origins of language curriculum design. We're gonna see how vocabulary selection, resulted in lexical syllabus. Because at that time, in the early decades, I'm talking about 1930s and 40s and 50s. So at that time, the teachers and the researchers were looking for best suitable method for language teaching in the classroom. And obviously, the question faced by the teachers was what to select. Which words to teach. And this tension, like what to select and what not to select, played a pivotal role towards the development of syllabus design. And another concern which was faced by linguists, applied linguists at that time was what sort of content should form the body of textbooks? Which sort of content, what sort of vocabulary, easy to difficult to more complex, right? So vocabulary selection has been a biggest issue at that time. And why it was an issue? Obviously, because teachers had a limited time available. Obviously, they were not able to teach everything from the corpus of language. So in order to teach vocabulary, then they needed to rely on words which could form a sound basis for language learners, right? So we could see the importance of vocabulary selection in through the lens of a researcher, Mackey. As we can see here, selection is an inherent characteristic of all methods. Whether it's a grammar translation method or direct method or what we call communicative method, we need to make choices and decisions what to select and what not to select. As I have already said, we can't choose everything from the whole corpus of language, right? So that was the key issue faced by applied linguists at that time. And since it is impossible to teach the whole of a language, all methods in some way or the other, whether intentionally or not, select the part of it they intend to teach. So as teachers, they had to make choices. What to select, which words, whether they could serve the needs of the learners. So there was the key issue faced by applied linguists at that time when they were looking for vocabulary selection as a kind of syllabus for language teaching, right? And in order to make choices about vocabulary selection, the applied linguists, were again confronted by another issue. Which units of vocabulary? The history. If we look back at the history, we would come to know vocabulary selection had kind of two aspects. Obviously, the one of the primary was vocabulary itself, and the second one was the grammar selection and its gradation. And so, as I have said, vocabulary was the key issue, and it was the core component of language teaching. It was considered to be one of the fundamental component of language teaching. So, obviously, the concern was how many words? For example, 100, 200, 500, 1,000. And in which order? This was another concern faced by linguists. For a suitable syllabus, how many words and in which order, the selection of vocabulary, and it's right. And the researchers was concerned, like if this is left to the textbooks writers, the vocabulary selection might not be appropriate for language learners, because it might become decontextualized. I mean, vocabulary, they might be finding vocabulary learning as something which is irrelevant and which is not suitable what they were looking for, right? And vocabulary selection in its historical perspective became a driving force for the notion of lexical syllabus which we have presently. So this is how some of the historical history has influenced lexical syllabus.